Agents, if you ever sat there staring at your phone before calling an online buyer lead, maybe rehearsing what you're going to say so that it doesn't sound awkward, you're not alone. I've been there too. But here's what I've learned over years of the online lead game, and probably hundreds of thousands of calls. Agents don't struggle with getting leads. They just struggle with what happens in the first 30 seconds of that call. In the first 30 seconds, that's where trust is either built or the call is completely lost. Hey there, I'm Brett Johnson, team lead with Realty Network Group at Real Broker, and your host at Better Together Agents. And over the years, I have had a lot of conversations with agents who, say the same thing. I'm getting online buyer leads, but they just don't answer. Or even worse, they hang up, or they just disappear after that first call. And almost every time, the issue isn't the lead source. It's honestly the conversation. Let's face it, there was a time when calling quickly and just introducing yourself was enough. Buyers were less informed, they were less distracted, and they were honestly more responsive. Today's buyers, though, they've already scrolled listings, they compared agents, and they maybe filled out 3 different forms before they even dial a number. So when you call, you're not starting fresh. You're stepping into a conversation that's already happening in that prospect's mind. If you don't align with where they are, you feel like an interruption instead of a resource. So the goal of the first call is not to impress them. Don't pitch yourself. It's not to qualify them either, like it's some kind of interview. It's to meet them where they are and create clarity. If you want stronger conversations and fewer ghosted leads, here are 3 tips that actually work. The first is to open with context, not a sales pitch. One of the biggest mistakes I see agents make is opening with credentials. Hey, this is Brett, I'm a realtor. This just feels natural to us, but the buyer unfortunately just creates distance. Instead, anchor the call in what they just did. Lead with context. Something simple like, hey, I saw you were looking at homes online and requested information on that 123 Main Street home. I just want to see what stood out to you in that property. It does 3 powerful things. It reminds them why you're calling, it makes the call feel relevant instead of random, and it invites them into a conversation instead of just some kind of presentation over the phone. When people know others are paying attention to them, they actually tend to relax. When they relax, that's when they're going to open up and talk some more. Now next, you want to ask questions that lower resistance. After your opening, your job, it's not to interrogate, it's to make them comfortable. A lot of agents jump straight into, are you pre-approved? What's your timeline? What's your budget? All this does is raise the prospect's guard. Instead, just ask questions that feel easy to answer. Things like, so are you just starting to look, or have you been kind of watching the market for a bit? What caught your attention about that home? Or are you hoping to stay in the area, or are you still exploring other options? These questions do 2 important things. First, they lower resistance, and then they give you insights without pressure. Buyers are going to open up when they don't feel evaluated, and when they talk, that's when you gain the clarity to figure out what your next steps are going to be. So the last tip is to set the next step without forcing any kind of commitment. Here's where most agents get anxious. They think the first call has to end with that scheduled showing or some kind of agreement signed or an appointment. It doesn't necessarily have to happen. The goal of the first call is simple: earn the next conversation. Once you understand where they are, offer value and just suggest a small, helpful next step. It might sound like, based on what you shared, I can send you a few homes, that line up with what you're looking for, and I can give you a clearer sense of the pricing in that area. Or if it helps, I can walk you through what buyers are running into right now so that you know what to expect in your same situation. Notice the difference? You're not pushing for a decision, you're just offering guidance. Now that positions you as the trusted advisor, not some kind of salesperson. And when buyers feel supported instead of pressured, they're going to be more engaged. So agents, if you're building online buyer leads right now and you want your calls to feel more natural, maybe more confident and more effective, I'm happy to compare notes. Reach out, send me a message, let's schedule a one-on-one conversation. We can talk through what's working in your market, how to maybe turn those calls into real relationships, and maybe some of the best practices we're each seeing. And if this was helpful, let's stay engaged. Subscribe and follow our Better Together Academy. I share practical strategies that you can use immediately to improve your conversations and your follow-up. Because let's face it, if you can get that first call right, everything else from there is easier. Thanks for watching.